Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Witchcrafter deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this deck actually just got some really insane support, like Spellbook of Judgment level support for this deck, which this deck actually reminds me a lot of Spellbooks, but with really good boss monsters. Like, yes, we had Priestess of High Prophecy, or High Priestess of Prophecy, but we have some really good boss monsters in this deck, especially the Smug Girl herself. So anyways, guys, let's get straight on this. Before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description because we have some really cool rewards for you guys, like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card sent to you in the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month that you are a patron. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we are going to be playing a single copy of Witchcrafter Madame Veer. Witchcrafter Madame Veer has the ability that during damage calculation, you can reveal any number of spells when your spellcaster battles. Reveal any number of spells with different names in your hand and make that spellcaster gain attack points equal to that number of spells times 1,000. So if you reveal 5 spells in your hand, that monster is gaining 5,000 attack. That is insanely good. And she also has the ability that you can discard a spell and then negate the activated effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently control for the rest of the turn, or till the end phase of the turn, which is really good to be able to just cold wave the field. That is really good. Let me play 2 copies of Witchcrafter Golem Aruru. Aruru is so good, people even tech this card in other decks like Dark Magician, Spellbooks, all sorts of stuff. She is insanely good because she has the ability that when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a spellcaster type monster you control, or targets them for attacks, you can instantly special summon her from your hand, which is really cool, and then target a spell card that's a Witchcrafter spell or a card your opponent controls and return that target to the hand. So she either compulses a monster or gives you back one of your spell cards to use again. She also has the ability that she returns to your hand during your opponent's standby phase, which is not that big of a deal because she's going to stay on your field the entirety of your opponent's turn, and then the entirety of your turn, and then return during your opponent's turn, and then you can just special summon her again, which is really good to be able to just immediately special summon her again. Let me play 2 copies of Witchcrafter Hane. Witchcrafter Hane she's a really good boss monster that your opponent cannot target with spellcaster monster you control with card effects, and then quick effect, you can discard a spell, then target card your opponent controls and destroy it. So she's just instant spot removal, which is super helpful for this deck to be able to get those cards off the field, which is really nice to be able to do. 3 copies of the Fire Witchcrafter monster. She's the one that you want to see the majority of the time because she's like Foolish Burial. During your main phase, you can quick effect, you contribute her and discard a spell to special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck, except another copy of herself. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard and then send a Witchcrafter card from your deck to the graveyard. And you can only use each effect of her once per turn. Then we play 1 copy of Pottery. Pottery is really good. I bumped her down to 1 in this deck because of the new spell cards. That they are that crazy that you just don't need quite as many monsters in the main deck. So you just play her at 1 now. Basically what she does is she also shares the same ability that you can contribute her and discard a spell to special summon a Witchcrafter, but then you can banish her from the graveyard to draw a card and then send a Witchcrafter card from your hand to the graveyard, or if you have none, you banish your entire hand. So she can let you draw that card, which is still really nice. Then we play 1 copy of Pottery. I think that's how you say it, because what she does is basically if you have no cards in your hand, you can banish her from your grave and then target a Witchcrafter in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is really nice to be able to do because she just kind of sits there, and if you ever get put in that kind of a disadvantaged spot, then you use her for that particular effect. And she also has shares the same ability that you contribute her and then discard a spell to special summon a Witchcrafter. And then we play 3 copies of Witchcrafter Jenny. Jenny is the best normal summon in the entire deck besides the Fire Witchcrafter. Because what she does is during your main phase, you contribute this card and then discard a spell, then quick effect, you can special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck. And she also has the ability that you can banish her and 1 Witchcrafter spell from your graveyard, and this card's effect becomes the effect of the Witchcrafter that you banished. So if you banish a copy of Creation, you get the effect of Creation, which is a search, which is super nice to be able to just instantly get a second effect of that card because of Jenny, which is why you play her at 3. She's also level 1, so you can use her as link material if you want to use her as link material and keep a monster on the field. That is another option, like for Relinquished Anima or Linkuriboh. So that is an option for you guys as well. So that's it for the Witchcrafter monsters and the monsters in the deck. There's not that many. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we are going to, unfortunately, but fortunately, be playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. So Pot of Extravagance is a deck. This card, you don't need the extra deck at all in this deck. I will have some suggestions for you guys which you can play, but you don't need an extra deck in this deck at all. So basically, you play Pot of Extravagance because you can banish either 3 or 6 random cards from your extra deck, and then you draw 1 or 2 depending on the amount that you banished. If you banished only 3, then you get to draw 1. If you banish 6, then you get to draw 2. You're always going to banish 6 to be able to draw 2 because you don't need your extra deck at all in this deck. This card is really good in this deck, and I highly recommend that you play it if you can. If you can't, play 3 Ash Blossoms to slow the deck down a little bit, or play something else that you want to put in this position, but you really kind of need the Pot of Extravagance for this deck. Then we play 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really nice because Called by the Grave just stops all those hand traps that you don't want to have to deal with, which is super, super helpful. You could also, I will mention really quickly, you could change this out if you wanted to in a pinch. If you didn't have Pot of Extravagance, you change out the Pot of Extravagance and play 1 Upstart and 2 Desires. If you want to play 1 Upstart, 2 Desires, I wouldn't want to banish that much, but it is an option if you don't have it and you really want to play this deck. Then we play a single copy of Reasoning. Reasoning it works really well for 2 reasons. First off, all of your Witchcrafters are different levels, like all of them. They're between 1 and 8, which is really cool, except for Aruru and Madame Veer, which are the same level. So what Reasoning does is it sends your Witchcrafter spells to the graveyard to be able to add them back to your hand because you didn't activate their effects that turn, which is really good. And it gets you a free monster too. Then we play 1 copy of Witchcrafter Draping. Draping lets you target as many spells or traps your opponent controls, up to the number of Witchcrafters you control, and return those targets to the hand. And then during your end phase, all Witchcrafter spells share this ability that during your end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter monster while this card's in your grave, you can add this card to your hand, which is really nice to be able to do. 1 copy of By Street. By Street, the first time each Witchcrafter monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, it is not destroyed, and it also has the ability of a Witchcrafter you control would discard to activate this effect. You can send this card to the graveyard instead. And then during your end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter monster while this card's in your grave, you can place this card in your spell and trap card zone. Scroll does the exact same thing, except if a Witchcrafter you control would if a spellcaster you control is destroyed by battle, you can draw a card instead. So basically they do the same exact thing except for that ability. Then we bumped Holiday down to 2 because it's searchable now and really easy to pull this card off in the deck. So you just play a single copy of Holiday in the deck. Holiday is really good, but you just need 2 copies of it now because it does revive those Witchcrafters, but you just need 2. 3 copies of Witchcrafter Creation. Witchcrafter Creation lets you add a Witchcrafter monster from your deck to your hand, and it also has the ability that you can add from your graveyard to your hand, but you can't activate it to turn you... basically, you can either add it to your hand or activate its effect during the turn, so you basically have to let it sit there a turn, which is fine because it kind of makes the deck a little bit slower and not broken. Then we play the 3 of the new card, which is 3 copies of Witchcrafter Unveiling. So Witchcrafter Unveiling showcases basically the craziness of how good this deck really is. And what this card does is it lets you special summon a Witchcrafter monster in your hand, and if you do, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to that card's activation of your spellcaster's effects for the rest of the turn. Really good effect. Speed spell 4 special summon from your hand. And it also has the ability that during your end phase, if you control another Witchcrafter monster, then you stick it in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand, but you can only activate either effect. Then you play 3 copies of Spell Chronicle. Spell Chronicle is a card that I really like as a tech card in here. You don't have to play it, but it's really helpful because it lets you send all cards in your hand to the grave, and then you select and remove from play 5 or spells or traps from your deck, and each time your opponent activates a spell, you place a Chronicle counter on this card, and you move 2 Chronicle counters to add them to your hand. But basically what you're trying to do is banish them. It's not so much that, because of the new Witchcrafter Patronus is going to be the really, really, really good effect to be able to use to get them back. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's it for the spells. You're basically just trying to banish 5 different spells, which is why we only play 2 copies of Holiday now, because this card basically searches 5. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. I know Witchcrafters play traps. What? So for the traps, we're playing 1 copy of Masterpiece, because this deck is a Masterpiece. Masterpiece lets you, if you control a Witchcrafter monster, you can target a spell in either player's graveyard and add 1 card with the same name from your deck to your hand. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard and any number of spells from your grave to special summon a Witchcrafter monster from your deck whose level is equal to or lower than the banished number, which is really cool because you can just banish one and get Jenny if you want to. 3 copies of Patronus. Patronus is insane. Patronus is insanely good. This card is probably the reason I'm going to be picking up this deck again and playing it a lot. Because this card is so freaking good. But basically what this card does is it lets you target one spellcaster monster that is banished or in the graveyard, shuffle it in the deck, and you get to add a Witchcrafter spell from your deck to your hand. And if this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish this card and then target any number of banished Witchcrafter spells with different names and add them to your hand. That's crazy. So you activate Spell Chronicler, get this card in the graveyard, and then immediately banish it, and then add all 5 of them back to your hand, which is nuts. That is crazy, because then you get 5 abilities. Then we play 2 copies of Summon Limit, because you're never going to summon more than twice in this deck in a turn anyways. So Summon Limit really helps out to just kind of make it so your opponent can't special summon or normal summon more than once. And then negated card effects that would summon don't count. So like, you don't play Judgment or anything that's going to really stop your opponent from summoning, but that's something to keep in mind that neither player can summon more than twice per turn, so it really hinders your opponent, so you want to play this card at 2 in the deck. So that's it for the traps, guys, and the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. Now, I will mention, you guys, since it is a Pot of Extravagance deck, you can play any of these cards at 3 that you feel like you need, but I'm just showing you these as suggestion cards that you're going to be able to play on the extra deck. So we're going to bump through these, and I'm going to explain briefly why I play them at the ratio I do, or if I play them at all. So first off, we're going to play a single copy of Linkuriboh. I would consider playing this card at 3 if you want to summon it a lot, if you're going to be playing your copies of Extravagance in here. But basically what this card does is it lets you link summon into it, and then it blocks attacks. Relinquished Anima. Relinquished Anima can really help out for gobbling up your opponent's monsters. This is a card I definitely would play in the extra deck. Alamirage. Alamirage is really cool because if you normal summon Jenny, then you can link away the Jenny to summon Alamirage to help you protect your cards. Underclock Taker really helps out to boost your monster's attack and reduce your opponent's monster's attack. Crowley is a card I would highly recommend because it lets you normal summon a level 5 or higher spellcaster monster you control without tributing, which can kind of help out a little bit sometimes. Blockade Board Blocker can help you get your continuous spells out of the graveyard if you need to. Cerberus pops monsters. Phoenix pops spells and traps. And your copy of Unicorn bounces cards off the field, so these cards super help out. So I definitely recommend playing at least 2 of each of these if you're going to play the Pot of Extravagance build. Akashic Magician, because it helps bounce stuff off the field as well for like Unicorn, but it has the point to it. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. You can link an Aruru away to summon this card, and it becomes really big and doesn't return to your hand and can banish stuff and attack and get really big. Zero Boros is really good in here because you can banish a lot of stuff. I highly recommend that you play Zero Boros. It's hard to get into Link 4s, but it's there if you need it. And like I said, you don't really need the extra deck all that much. So these are just kind of suggestions. Appaloosa because it gives you negations, Boral Sword because it helps you with OTKs, and Avermax because it's hard to deal with. So if I was going to play 5 cards that I was going to play at 3, I would probably play 3 Phoenix, 3 Unicorn, 3 Linkuriboh, 3 Relinquished Anima, and 3 Topologic Trispania. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the ones I would play. Right there would be those 5 right there. If you guys can see that, would be these 5 right here. If I would be playing that particular ratio. So it'd be Nightmare Phoenix, Topologic, Nightmare Unicorn, Relinquished Anima, and Linkuriboh would be the ones I'd play at 5. And then take out any ratio you want to play any other cards if you're playing Pot of Extravagance. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really fun deck to play around with. It's a deck that you don't need an extra deck for, so if you don't have the extra deck, you can always just kind of play anything that you want to just be able to link summon into something, or if you need to, or if you don't want to, you can just play anything in the extra deck, throw 15 random cards in there, and then play 3 Extravagance, and you're fine. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit that bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad. Oh, I will mention this to you guys. Also, something that you can do with the extra deck is if you don't want to build a second extra deck and you have 2 decks that you carry around with you, something I do a lot is I'll just use the same extra deck for 2 decks. Like if I know I'm not going to go into the extra deck, I'll just play the same extra deck for 2 decks. Like if I'm carrying Blackwings in this, I'll just give this deck my Blackwing extra deck to just use for fodder for Extravagance, which is something interesting for you guys just to think about. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description because we got some awesome rewards for you guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.